Hello.
I guess I shouldn't be swearing right now, right?
How are you?
Hello, Isabella. I am fine. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm happy that you could join me today for this live broadcast. It's going to be fun.
I hope so. Well, I mean, I think it's really kind of you to sort of ask me to be part of it. And I think, as I mentioned to you earlier as well, it's like I haven't done anything like this for ages, a long time. Well, maybe 2 years actually.
Well, that's nothing. I just wanted to mention because this whole broadcast is really about, in the end, networking. And I just thought it would be interesting that I mention how I bump into you, bump into you
Oh,
online, because I think it's really also what I'm trying to explain to people is how you meet people online, really. I call that remote networking, is that I was going through LinkedIn and I was actually headhunting for a couple of positions I have going on right now. And I just found that your profile was built in a way that was really interesting and it actually caught my attention. So, really, a big shout out to people watching us. Really, your LinkedIn profile is important and how you showcase your skills, the photo that you have, and the wording that you use. So, I was quite excited to read about you, and I thought this is someone that I want to get to know because what you've done is amazing. And actually, that's what you're going to explain, in your introduction, because I think you almost had several lives into one, with TV and going to different countries, South Africa, London, now Zurich. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
wow, thanks, Izzy. I'm happy that you liked my LinkedIn profile. Yes, you are correct. LinkedIn is very, very important. It really helps you to showcase who you are as an individual. But yeah, so I'm Nina Bode. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. And my life has been a very sort of interesting journey when you think of it. Starting out in television. I mean, I started out, I think, drama school at the age of 8. Not I think, I know. And it was sort of part of my journey. I got scouted at 16 for a television actual show, and that's where it all sort of began, and it just escalated and escalated until it sort of changed into more of the commercial side in business, especially in media, which is my interest. And then moving to London and moving back to South Africa, and then of course, like with every expat, I think it is something that everybody, Switzerland is probably on top of their list. And but I wasn't here. I didn't move here because of work or study. It was more for personal reasons. And that's been my journey. It's been an interesting journey from transitioning from high English to Hochdeutsch. I mean, not the easiest thing to do. And then you go, well, hey, I've given up my career, I've given up my life, I'm starting from zero. Where do I begin? Which is definitely a very interesting transition to make, and especially in a city like Zurich. But yes, so that's been my journey, and that's where I'm from, and now I'm here, and I'm sitting with you, and I think that's really kind that you wanting to interview me.
Yeah, I think really when you have to come to Switzerland is what I tell my clients and even people in general. You almost have to invent yourself because it's a new place and you have to really get to know people. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit about networking and how was that the source of all opportunities really that came your way, because I really believe that it creates a certain energy when you're the type of person who talks, who knows how to introduce themselves to individuals, and that creates almost an ecosystem. So I'd be very delighted to see how you've built your career on that.
Well, I think when I knew I was moving to a different country, so I started learning German in South Africa at the Goethe Institute, and it was kind of my little gateway. And actually, I have a very close friend who always used to laugh at me, like, "Oh, you've got to do this app and that app, and you're moving to Switzerland." Um, and so I started with the basics, learning the language, and I think that was very important because I knew if I'm going to be in a new city, I have to get around. I need to be able to communicate, and the kind of personality that I am, I like challenges. I like to be out there and figure things out. And of course, I arrived, and I thought, oh, Hello, German. Hello, people. Nobody knows who I am. I'm a small fish in a very big pond. If it was in South Africa, I would know everybody in business, in the industry. And I thought, well, where do I start? And you start doing your research. And I think, well, first of all, I thought, well, I've got to, events is my background, business events and networking. This is all, it goes all hand in hand. And my personality was also sort of, it kind of helped. So I started doing smaller sort of dinner events at various restaurants, building a network through getting to know the locals a little bit. And then it sort of escalated to, because I was putting myself out there and not just sticking to the very, I would say, the South African tribe, because I've never been that kind of person. You go to a new country, you meet new people, and not just the locals, but also those who are there. And of course, that's how you expand your network. And that sort of escalated into meeting some very interesting people. They liked my personality. I've worked with some luxury brands, and I thought, wow, you don't even know me, and you're asking me to work on some of the projects with you. And I thought that was quite great. And that is really how the ball started rolling. And I think the important aspect was that I needed to really sow my seeds. You cannot just go into a country and think, well, I'm going to get out there and just be number one. It doesn't work like that in life. And as we know, Switzerland, not the easiest country to get into. You have to build a trust factor. You have to let people understand. You've got to show people what you're capable, your capabilities. And that is what I've been doing. I mean, I've been here just over 3.5 years. And that is what I've slowly started doing. I took a seat back, really started learning the language, and I love it. I love German. I think everyone thinks I'm mad because it's like, oh, I love the language so much. I'm even reading the most difficult book, Immanuel Kant, Die drei Kriterien auf Deutsch, and it's, who does that? Nobody does that if you're an expat. You just don't do that. But I love it because that's me. I'm passionate. I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about cultures, and I embrace things. I just embrace everything and everyone. And that goes down to networking, because you cannot be afraid to network. You cannot be afraid to build new relationships, because that's what helps you. And especially when I do look at some of the mindsets of people who live here, they go, oh, I've come here because not out of work, but out of a relationship or for whatever personal reason, but they don't want to integrate. I mean, I did everything. I did the Zurich integration course. I did everything possible to connect closely to the system and understand the system, even if it means that you have to pack and fold your newspapers in a certain way and put them into bundles. But, these are things that you learn, and that's what makes it exciting. And I think that's also that, like I mentioned, sowing the seeds, understanding, and then, slowly nurture that seed so it grows. And now I've got the apples, and they're sort of hanging on the branches. And now I'm starting to pick, I think that's the most important thing, especially when you're looking at, from a networking perspective, how you're going to turn it into some sort of success. You've got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, and everyone does it at their own pace. So maybe because you're more extroverted, you're used to going out there and meeting people, and because you've done this most of your life, for you it's just an extra step. But for some people, maybe they start from really the base. And what I say to people is really start with simple things. If you're not very comfortable, start with, talking to your neighbors, and your networking objective at the beginning should just be to integrate. So anything is good, just going to dinner and, talking to a few ladies, if you're in a meetup, just a simple meetup where you just meet a few people from your neighborhood. You have to start small, and then you start growing a little bit more confident. And as I like to say, it's almost like a confidence award that you get each time. So maybe you go to the first dinner and you're like, wow, I did this, first award there. And then you go into bigger and better things. So we all start somewhere. I think you started probably a bit more experienced, but I think for people who are watching, even if you're really maybe introverted and you're a bit shy and you're not comfortable, you start with something very small. And you have meetups where there's only maybe 4 people, 5 people, something like that. So it
No,
doesn't have
exactly.
to be a big event.
No, I agree 100%. You have to start small. I think that's exactly what I did with the dinners as well. I organized these small dinner types or smaller fun events where people then started connecting. In fact, some of those people that I connected 3 years ago are still friends. And I think that's exactly it. For me, it is. I think with networking, you mustn't think exactly what am I going to get out of it, but really, how do you put everybody else into a little space, and maybe they can sort of grow and nurture from each other, And
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
so you've got to start small. You cannot just deep dive and go, haha, hello world, I'm there. It doesn't work like that.
Well, I like to say that opportunities come to people who give. And that's basically what I do. I just give. I just give resources to people around me. And by creating this environment, usually that's when it's almost like a virtual circle. You provide for others, and then at some point they provide for you. And sometimes it's hard, especially when you're in a state of needing something. And sometimes for expats, when they come to a country and they have this need that they need a job, for example, or they need to make contacts. And obviously, we all need to have a job, right? But at some point, you have to let go a little bit and say, okay, I need to do this in the right way. So networking is really a lifestyle, it's a practice. And by building the practice the right way, as you say, you will get the reward of your efforts. You're putting the seeds out there. So, for you, for example, maybe could you give 1 or 2 practices that encouraged your networking successes in the past? Maybe a couple of things you did and worked out well for you.
Absolutely. I think just to touch on the point that you said, yes, people must go out there network. I think sometimes there is that language barrier, which makes it also hard. But you mustn't be fearful, because if everybody sets out to have the same goal, then you can help one another. And also, don't be too fearful about approaching the locals, because they're there to help, and they love to help when they see that you require a skill set, whether it's learning a language or understanding the language better. Make mistakes when you speak German. Don't think I've got to be so perfect. It doesn't work like that when it's not your native language. But yeah, just talking about what has really worked for me in terms of networking throughout my career is that, like I said, number one, I've always been a go-getter. Number two, authenticity. Be honest, be real, be authentic, because people love authentic. And I think, coming from a sales background where you're sitting with your high level CEO, the decision maker, most of the time, I've had a variety from sitting in South Africa with those in government sectors, in public sectors, in private sectors, and you go in there and you think, oh, you know. But actually, the thing was, if you're authentic and real, they love that. They just don't want to have someone come in and do a hard sell. They want someone that's smiling. They want someone that's positive. They want to see someone that brings a solution or an offering and an idea. And I have ideas. I used to see my clients and I always had ideas, and they always think, oh gosh, there's Nina. But they love it. And I talk a lot. And everybody that knows me knows that I do talk a lot. And I always have something to say. And I always ask the question, why? But why not? Why must you? I know in corporate culture, it's very much straight-laced. You don't look left, you don't look right. No, there must be, why can't we look left and why can't we look right? And that also goes down when you look at your friendship, when you look at any sort of relationship that you build, that you need to go out there, be authentic, be yourself, have an idea, and build on it. If it doesn't work in the beginning, of course at some point, if you strategize and you need to sort of understand exactly how to get to that specific goal, you find the solution and you work on it. I think I've always been the kind of person as well, when it comes to networking. I always, like I said, I'm a little bit of a maverick, and I'll get to that maverick topic again if we speak about it. But I used to go to all these conferences, and of course, conferences, oh goodness, They are so strategic and bored. And they're not boring. You learn. You go, you do your breakaways, you do your sessions. And I was once at a 4-day conference in Cape Town, and day one, everybody was so serious and everyone was just networking and business cards. And I'm thinking, poor CEOs, poor decision maker, poor anyone, because you've got this list of who you need to see and who you need to connect with. And everyone's so desperate, standing there with their glass going, oh God, I need to speak to that. Oh, I'm going to go. No, actually let people relax. And remember day one, day two on the conference, we had our dinners, and everyone is just, and I thought, no. And the theme of the day two was actually, it was called Moyo, it was called Africa. And if you're South African, our South African spirit is to inspire people. It is to get out there, and it really is to go jump on the bandwagon. And at this dinner, everyone was sitting there doing the same thing. You could see wine was going round, people were handing out. And I thought, no. And I went to every single table, and the music started playing, and I think they may have played something like Johnny Clegg, which is very South African. I went to every single table, and I said, you've got to get on the table and dance and bring in the African spirit. I think out of 200 people, I got 90% of everyone dancing on tables, everyone having a great time. Most of them stayed out till probably 3-4 the next morning. On day 3 in the conference, it was the keynote speaker. In fact, he was also one of them dancing on the tables on that night. And they said, he came on and he said, well, last night was interesting. I thought, oh God, what's he going to say now? And he said, well, there was one individual in this conference. And I thought my then boss was going to go, oh, Nina, what have you done? And he said, back then, whatever my maiden name, Nina Zani from this company. She got everybody dancing on the table, and all of those who followed this movement, can you stand up? And you had 90% of the conference getting up, and it was such a laugh, everybody applauding, because they said, this is exactly what it is. Just because we're in this very serious environment doesn't mean that we cannot let our hair down. If more of us just realize that it's okay not to just always be so serious. I mean, I can't quite remember the speech, but it was really about, it's okay to let go. Of course, that is where my style became, and that's how my networking, that's how you ease into a space, because then someone's talking to you. How do you do that? How do you encourage people to do things? And it's, I think, partially maybe a natural ability to do this. I don't know. Just, people's person.
When you took an adventure, you did something disruptive. Basically, you just saw that, okay, it's missing something, and you just had an idea and you did it. And the fact that very few people actually like to disrupt, I think probably most people would go with the flow. If given a choice, they would say, okay, everyone is quiet, so I'll be quiet. Everyone is looking at their plate, so I'll look at my plate. And I think the natural tendency is to be like everybody else. And I think people who tend to probably grow their career faster or be a little bit more remarkable, they tend to be people who take chances and they disrupt. So they do something that no one else will do, but it's a catch-22. But I would say most of the time probably it works, because just the fact that you did something different, you'll be noticed just for that. And people will remember. And even if no one completely agrees 100% that they like what you did, you'll be noticed. And in the end, that's what it is. And that's how some people get known, because they start a show with a topic that no one else touched on, or they have a style. I see this all the time. I watch a lot of YouTube actually myself, and I see people who are sometimes different from others, is because they started something different. Maybe they have a different way of filming, or the way they speak, the type of subjects. They always try to do something different. And in the end, that's what you have to think for yourself is, okay, I'm going to an event, there's a line there, there's a thread, but maybe I do something different that's going to change that a little bit.
Yes, you've got to stand out. And I think of course, you're not going to go to every conference and get people to dance on the tables. Of course, you're going to have a bit more, there's going to be moments where you are sitting with a serious client, but it doesn't mean that you have to. I mean, I was very fortunate when I worked with Forbes and CNBC Africa that I attended the Mayor's Summit. And the mayor summit with all mayors from all across the globe. And I thought, oh God, what am I doing here? But anyway, I went, and I actually ended up having a really lovely time chatting with various mayors, including Michael Bloomberg. And we didn't talk about, oh, so what are you thinking you're going to be doing for? No, it was really just having, and he was such a funny man. I mean, he was such a funny guy. But he had a good conversation, walked away, and it was like, oh, I had to go and be so serious about what we're doing about world climate. Sometimes there's a balance of how you can connect with someone, and you need to gauge and use the instinct that you have. And I think that's exactly it. Finding those opportunities. I mean, for example, now I'm representing a brand called the Future Females in Zurich, as you know. And again, it's all about networking. It's about connecting. It's about connecting like-minded females, entrepreneurs who want to get out there. But if you don't use your channels, you're not going to get out there, and you're not going to meet or reach the correct people. Networking is all these different touch points. Chatting with you right now, it's another touch point. Me sharing the information, a different touch point, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. At the end of the day, our lives are filled with various touch points, and we just have to nurture them all the time. Very important.
Exactly. I mean, always share. And again, it goes back to what I was sharing. Sharing is giving, and it does create this circle where at some point, you'll get emails from people who say, wow, I watched your video, I read your blog article. And that's how you become a networker. You inspire, you give, you share, you help others. And then at some point, you'll see that it goes towards you again. So, but sometimes you have to be patient. It can take a little bit of time. And building a network for me is a lifelong project. Really, it's the sooner the better, because then you will have these people around you that will be your support as well, and will help you throughout your career. And I think especially for young women, it's great that you have all these different circles now. And I know when I started my career, it wasn't there. So I think it's really moved forward now that you can find circles like the one that you have with Future Females or any other one, where people who are shy, who don't know how, who need mentors as well. I think it's great that
Exactly.
you have these opportunities.
I think we should go out there. We should be able to inspire other, not just females, but just individuals as a whole. Because as we're touching on the topic of how did I create my network and how am I creating my network in Zurich, it's not easy. So you have to find various touch points where you can put yourself out there, and then you start connecting. And now slowly but surely, like I've mentioned, people are coming into my space because they're saying, oh, who are you? What are you doing? Aha. That's important. But
Exactly.
it doesn't happen overnight. It's taken me 3.5 years to sort of get to this point, and now I'm just going to carry on nurturing it and build on that.
Well, people do email me or contact me and say, I've watched your videos for 2 years, or, sometimes it takes a while before people come back to you and they need to see who you are. As you say, build this link of authenticity and
Mm-hmm.
trust. And sometimes it can be a while, but again, people are there and they do watch you, and you are making an impact, even if you don't think you are. You have your own little your knowledge, your experience that you bring to the table, and people are taking that into account. So it is out there. Did you have any mentors when you were building your career? Maybe people who helped you grow and learn about business and how to be successful and so forth?
In South Africa, yes, I did, and I learned from some of the best, and especially one coach that I had actually. And this is why I'm going to mention the maverick to you. He used to say to me, Nina, you are such a maverick. And I used to laugh, and I said, but why? And he goes, well, just your way of thinking, your approach of how you sell, it's refreshing, because you take the basis, but you make it glamorous in a different kind of way. You make it fun. Your personality adds to it as well, and that's what's going to take you through in life. And all you can do with all of that energy all of your thought process. All you have to do is to continue nurturing that. And for me, my journey has been very adventurous, because it has been twofold, where I've been television, fun media, traveling, and through this I've also built a global network. Before I arrived in Switzerland, for example, I had a network. I have a network in most European countries, and also in the US. But it all takes time, and you have to. And now that I look back, I go, wow, it's been interesting. But now I'm ready. I don't feel like I'm missing out. I didn't want to have FOMO, fear of missing out on anything. Now I'm ready to really sort of get back into it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I'm very, very excited, because I know there's some exciting opportunities out there, and that is why you need to just put yourself out there, because they say it's law of attraction, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In the space of 2 weeks, so much, since I've just been out there, so much has happened, and I'm thinking, oh, how, where? It's a mindset. And that's exactly with networking. It's a mindset. It doesn't matter how shy you are. It doesn't matter if you're the quietest person. We all have a skill inside us to go out there and do something. And step for step.
And different styles as well, because to be someone that's likable, or that's someone that people like to engage with, you don't necessarily have to be one way. I mean, people have this image of maybe the extrovert, the person who talks to everybody, who's very magnetic in a way, but everyone can find their own way of being magnetic, meaning that some people do like maybe to talk to people who are a bit more shy, who are a bit more discreet. I mean, we all have our style, and in the end, you just have to find what works for you. But everyone can do it. That's the message. I think you just have to find your tribe. I like to call it. Everyone has their tribe, and that's where I like also the message from Simon Sinek when he talks about finding your why, and he says,
I love him.
Yeah, so the why is basically you have your own brand, you're you, and you will attract like-minded people. So my way of being and my style may not match everybody, but that's fine, because you will find people who match you, and that's good enough. You can't be everyone's type of person, so that's okay.
No, that's true. I think we all have a personality, and I think it's how you utilize that personality to the best of your advantage. And I think that's also when you go back to talking about coaching and mentoring, which is also one of the directions I'm going to go into from, to help me nurture myself as a brand in Zurich and in Switzerland, is that I think it's important to have a coach and a mentor to take you through different stages. And then also, it's also important to also learn for yourself, because you are the only person that understands yourself, you as an individual, and we all have strengths and weaknesses, and maybe just start building on what you need to nurture. And it doesn't matter if you're shy or not. So yeah, you have to just kind of take it, small step at a time.
Well, one thing people have to realize, because I just learned this actually via my own personal development and things that I do, is that every single person who's very successful in this world, presidents, superstars, everyone has a mentor. And I thought, well, if you get to a certain level, I thought mentorship was more at the very beginning of my career for people who are maybe starters, or young people who start in their career. But actually, the most successful person who's already out there, building businesses, succeeding, etc., they all have a mentor. So it's something that people have to keep in mind, that you have to find people that you admire, that you want to imitate their success, and then basically look at what they're doing and have them as mentors. Find people who succeeded in what you want to succeed, and they will share with you their processes, basically, because it's not something that you necessarily need to create for yourself. I know when I started my business, I was like, I need to figure out everything by myself. But there's probably people out there who already did it. And you just need to identify, which is not always easy, but identify the people who've been successful in your thing, whatever it is that you're doing, contact those people, and see if they would want to be a mentor for you and teach you what they've done to be successful in their business or in their company if they're an employee. So that saves so much time, and sometimes people don't know. That's why I wanted to mention, because you don't necessarily realize that you could really shortcut your time in terms of learning by getting straight to the person that could help you achieve those milestones faster.
Absolutely. I think it does help. It definitely helps. And I think it depends on the stage. And I think when you're in various stages of your path, you know, you need to then bring in that those expertise to sort of take you to the next. And then you learn, or you continue to have the expertise in place. And you know, it's like you say, give, take, learn, make mistakes, grow, build, encourage, inspire. That's exactly it. That's the movement. That's forward. And I think I was actually interviewing a very lovely young entrepreneur last night, and I think one thing that all of us can learn from is the Generation Z. I mean, she was 21, built 2 companies, doing amazing things, not just in Europe, building clients in the US. And I said to her, that is phenomenal, because so many people, so many entrepreneurs don't realize that Generation Z versus what we've learned, probably old school ways, you need to combine both. And then you bring in, and you know, we can learn from everybody, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. I completely agree with you. When I see what the opportunities out there, especially if you're young, I mean, you have so much potential with online businesses, and now there's all the tools out there. You just need to make it happen, and huge opportunities for young people to build businesses fast, and probably to teach more senior individuals those things, because the non-digital natives, probably they will take already a little bit of time to figure it out. So coaching or mentoring is not necessarily going now to more senior people, but people who could actually be the digital natives that understand digital and could really save you a lot of time on those things. So as you said, it's more sharing. Maybe the more senior person has the know-how in terms of relationship building and all these things, but maybe the digitals, they have the tools and, you know, whatever it is that they can accelerate the business. So
no, absolutely, I agree with you. It is. There's so much to learn, and there's so much to grow from. It's exciting, and I think we're living in a world of change, and we need to embrace the change. And I think it's even with, when we look at networking, for example, through COVID, it wasn't possible to go to an
exactly.
event. It wasn't possible to be sitting in a coffee shop or whatever it is, and you see somebody that I don't know, it depends how your strategy is of networking, but online, there's loads of ways to network online. I mean, I think when you join groups, when you join discussions, you know, be open. I think that's the most open-mindedness, not just looking at things that, you know, 1 and 1 equals 2, but understanding that if you've had experiences before, don't let it influence how it's going to take your next journey. You know, take those experiences and say, well, how do I add on to it? How do I expand from it so that I can sort of broaden my horizon, reach new people, learn new things, and you know, accelerate myself, my business, everything into the next level.
Yeah, I agree with this. And yeah, I think it's something that we talk about also in my group called Careerpreneur that I have online, is trying to regroup also people. Actually, it's all different people with different ages and backgrounds. And I really feel that's what's enriching the group, is really sharing with different people who have different experiences. And I think, you know, trying to find also ways to network online these days, because there's no necessarily no opportunity to work in person and to meet in person. So trying to develop these ways of connecting online is really something I'm seriously right now teaching people, and creating those opportunities to talk, to strike conversations. And I'm sure also with future female Zurich, you will also do a lot of things around this direction. So there's lots of ways now that you can network, even if you don't have necessarily the more traditional way, and it will change. Probably it will keep changing.
Absolutely. I think what I love about Future Females is giving me an opportunity to not just connect with just local or just expat entrepreneurs, but also local, because you want to build that trust factor. You want to build a network and say, hey, how do we collaborate together? Because it's not about competition. If we all support the elements in what we are trying to create, everybody has a success story at the end of the day. And that's important for me. This is my new home. I have new friends here, and I also want to embrace and give back in many ways, but also still give back into my own home country, South Africa, with some of my projects that I'd like to do in time to come. And yeah, networking is very important. It doesn't matter in which shape or form. And I think I always have this mindset when I go out there, not very, I think subconsciously when I meet someone, I always think, oh, who can I connect them with? I really do. It's so funny. And that's what I do. I think just over a week and a half ago, I was sat in a restaurant and I couldn't believe it. I bumped into 3 people that I knew. Then there were some other guests sitting there, and I knew everybody, but everyone was sitting apart. And I said, no. Come and sit in this little circle. Everybody connected. And of course, one of the persons that I connected with, I was helping out with Nachbarschaftshilfe. She was one of the individuals who started it. And then she just mentioned, I said, oh, she goes, Nachbarschaftshilfe. And she goes, oh, you this person? Are you that name from that street? And I'm like, yeah. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, whoa, it's quite exciting that she remembered this person. But connecting people, yeah, important.
Yeah, you can connect people and they will remember that you did this for them, and that's how you make it's a very easy way to start building your network without doing any fancy going to conferences and so forth. Just connecting people around you, it's very powerful. So is that part because you said you had a few success stories in Zurich? So I think that's probably one of them. Any other things that happened to you that were really out of the ordinary and you thought, wow, this is great, a couple of situations?
Well, I think just generally when I had, sort of 2 sort of massive brands that gave me the opportunity to work with them, one a massive luxury brand and one, of course, sort of another big part of a sort of a networking organization. And I think they don't know who you are. And you're just sort of saying, hey, I've got an idea. And people that came to my previous events who said, I have to say I'm very grateful because there's a couple of my friends who absolutely believe in what I do because they see my can-do attitude, they see my wanting to do attitude and wanting to achieve and do things. And they've been sort of my little fans, and it's been really nice to have them be supportive towards me. And I think it's been those, for me, success is all the little goals that I've set out there. And I once I once had the psychometric test done, and in it said, in fact, the then psychologist, it was awful, a television show that I did, that they said, I'm silently determined. Whatever that's supposed to mean, but silently determined is really, I watch everyone that's going out there and they're fighting to get to the top and they want to be the best, and then they get burnout and then they're stressed out and then they all these things, and I just go, okay, I see what you're doing. Oh, I'm going to do this different. I will go a different route and I will do different options. And I think in that way you start building a whole different way of getting to your client, of building the trust, of building your network. And instead of throwing people out of the way, you're actually, funnily enough, assisting them by giving them and saying, oh no, I will help you. I'll help you get where you get. Because in some weird way, you're gaining something back. I can't explain it, but you do gain in a different kind of way. And I think, those sort of little successes are the successes that build up to the big prize. And I think for me, it's those golden apples hanging at the top of my tree. And I think that is just the most important strategies. Authenticity, you know, don't be afraid to be a little bit of a maverick. You know, be independent, get out there. You know, just and take things in your stride, and integrate. If you're going to move to a country where the language is not your first language, then learn the language. You know, I'm happy it's German because I speak Afrikaans, although my Afrikaans is now really, really bad. My German is better than Afrikaans, but it's a similar language. You know, if you're more sort of on the French side or the Italian side, learn the languages. Integrate with people. Don't be afraid and saying that, you know, nobody wants to integrate. You need to show that you want to be part. I think it doesn't matter. I look at it as a big team, indirect team. You put yourself in a team, and then you put yourself out there, and you figure it out. Don't be afraid.
What I hear, what I hear a lot from your feedback on your experience in Zurich is that you really embrace where you are. You're actually happy to be there, and you're happy to learn the language and meet locals. And so I call that embracing, or really feeling that this is your new life and you want to make it work. This is an important aspect, and really for people maybe to think about that before they come to Switzerland, is that it has to be also your personal decision. I mean, obviously, maybe you are following a partner or there's family reasons, but in the end, you need to buy into that family project yourself. I mean, it can be something that is imposed on you, or that you're doing a little bit against your own will, or you have to buy into the project. And maybe that's some food for thought for people who are not there yet. Are you really buying into the project if you want to move to Switzerland? Is it something that that you would really like yourself, and not necessarily for the partner? Because in the end, it's your life, right? And you need
absolutely, and nobody else can give it to you. I think, even if you came for work, still, I think, try and integrate. Don't just say, oh, they don't speak the language, or because no, I don't speak the language, no one wants to talk to me. Find a way. Find a way of getting yourself out there. Because then what's the point? Like you said, there's no point. Don't come here and then complain and say, oh, this is not working for me and that's not working for me. Well, then you've got to create something. And that's what I've been doing slowly but surely, creating a little platform for myself, for my friends. I connect everybody. It doesn't matter. I don't care who you are. I connect them. But then you start eliminating those who don't add value. As a giver, we give a lot, and then you eliminate. And as you eliminate and you start manifesting what it is that you want in your life, it starts happening. And that's what happened over the weeks. So I mean, even through COVID, I was going, oh, positive me, oh, but then you suddenly you just have this sudden turnaround. And sometimes it's people that inspire you, sometimes a situation that inspires you. Yeah, so it's you've got to look at it from a whole different angle, not just in the square box. It's important, most
and
certainly.
reach out, not stay by yourself. Even if you don't have the internal resources to say, okay, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do, because I think a lot of people are confused, don't have the know-how. But again, when I was starting my career, there was nothing out there, no, a few professional associations here and there, but, definitely not all these mentorship and all these groups that you have now online. I mean, it just wasn't there. So I think, especially if you feel that you're a little bit isolated, which could be the case as an expat, so there's groups to reach out to, like your group, other groups, so maybe that's what people need to hear, that there's resources for them. And then once you're part of a group, you become more energized as well to take yourself to the next level. So that's what I think helps as well. Isolation is really not great, and especially with what we dealt with lockdown. So already, if someone is a little bit isolated, which tends to be the case as an expat, and then you add the lockdown to that, that's very, very isolated. So so you need to find those online resources as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it does definitely didn't make it fun for, I think, for many people. But it's that question. It's that question that's always being asked. Do you see the glass half full or half empty. And for me, it's always the same. It's half full. Opportunities are there. You've got to look at a mindset that it doesn't matter what happens in your space. If it's negative, positive, well, more on the negative side, I would think, well, things don't go as planned. There's a reason for it, and you have to learn from it, and you have to grow from it. If you choose to, if you want it. But if you don't want it, you're always going to see the glass half empty. And then life is not going to present you opportunities. Opportunities just don't come to you. You have to be open for them in every shape and form. And I think that's the most important, probably the most important saying that I want to say for this interview. Don't let setbacks or anything hold you back. Don't a language, people, new city. Go in it with a positive mindset. Go and do and explore and investigate. Be curious. Be a maverick.
So become a maverick, and really comes down to really the word to probably summarize this conversation is mindset. Is really probably, when people say, well, I don't have experience, or I don't have this language, or I'm too young, I'm too old, etc. It comes down to anything is possible if you have the mindset. If you really want something, if you want to build something, you're willing to put the effort to it, the environment will provide it for you. But if you start by thinking that you're missing something, then all you will find is lack of something.
You're going to find all the gaps, and those gaps are the things that you're always going to find a problem with. And there's no need for it. Absolutely no need for it.
And again, even in the worst times, people find opportunities, because with changes in this very weird type of environment that we have right now, and complex, but there's always opportunities. There's online opportunities for sure.
Absolutely.
So and you talked yourself to somebody who created successful businesses at 21. So it shows that there's ways, but you just have to look at those opportunities, find them and embrace them.
Exactly. Find them and connect. And don't be afraid. If you see someone doing something amazing, write them and say, I think it's great what you do. That's what I do a lot online, actually. When I'm on Instagram and I see brands doing something good, or a female or anyone doing, I'd say, this is amazing. And I'll be sincere about it. And half the time I'll write you back, and then you build a relationship. Touch points, I call them. It's like your customer journey in your own little way. You're your own little customer. Figuring it out, all the points. The most favorite saying of today in business. How's your customer journey?
How's your customer journey? So you touch points, yeah, and not be afraid.
Are you reaching all of them? And we all have to look at ourselves as your own business, in many ways.
CEO of one. Or careerpreneur, was that, or as I call it in my group, you're a careerpreneur. You're the entrepreneur of your own career, and you have to work on it.
Oh, Isabella, this has been a really, really, really lovely discussion.
Yeah, and I find that hopefully people will find it inspirational, and maybe will start something that they have in their back end that they've been waiting to start, making that phone call, sending that email, saying that they like someone's work, maybe on Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is that you want to do. It starts with one little action,
Exactly. Yeah, you have to just be open-minded, and it's okay if people don't write you back. It's okay if they don't give you an answer. It's okay if you don't get feedback. You go to the next one. It's like the lottery. Roll over.
Yeah, and I really hope people will do it after watching this interview. But it was great talking to you.
Thank you, Isabella. I think it's really nice that you chose me on LinkedIn and wanted to chat with me. And yes, thank you.
Well, thanks very much, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm wishing you a great weekend. Hopefully the weather is good in Geneva. Yes, it's raining here. We have no summer, unfortunately.
Well, hopefully it will change too. You know, glass half full.
Oh no, you caught me out. That's
Okay,
Thanks,
well,
Isabella.
thanks.